Hi, ladies. Thank you so much for tuning in into another episode of iStartFirst podcast. Today is very special. My guest today is a coach, a self-discovery expert, someone who spoke at the very first iStartFirst Summit 5 events ago. She is absolutely extraordinary at the process of learning everything about yourself and building your life of intention. And I am so excited for you to meet Dorothy Huynh. Stay tuned. Hi, loves. Welcome to iStartFirst podcast, the show for boss babes who start ideas, businesses, dreams, and lifestyle. I'm your host, Alenka Cullinan, founder of iStartFirst, speaker, author, and business coach, aka Queen of Pushing Boss Babes Off the Ledge. On this show, I chat with epic humans who are guaranteed to up-level your business and mindset. Are you ready to sparkle up? Let's go. Hello, ladies, and welcome for another episode of iStartFirst podcast. I am so excited. This is seriously so special to me because my guest today actually spoke at the very first iStartFirst Summit. And it was a very special experience for me because I saw her before that event and I knew that she was ready to deliver something super powerful, something raw and real, something from the heart. And that's exactly what she did. She literally just showed up with her soul and heart cracked open. And this is how she shows up with everything in life and with love always. So welcome, Dorothy. Hi.
Hey, I'm ready to do it all over again.
Yes. And I'm not even attempting your last name. Did you notice how I successfully avoided it? No, that's awesome though. So talk me through, several stages I've known you, right? Some of it was athletic, coaching.
Yeah.
Being being the coach with athletes and nutrition and understanding how your body works, then going more into soul route and understanding and opening your heart. So kind of walk us through how did the story unravel?
My story. I actually started with graphic design and helping people do branding. And I was going to college for that or getting my master's, but I fell in love with weightlifting and the opportunity to coach came up and I was like, okay, people keep coming to me and asking about it. And I ended up starting a business in 2013 to coach. And I did that for about, where are we now? Getting old. Like 4 or 5 years I was coaching and it came to this point where I realized people, like everything that was holding us back from achieving what we want it's all mindset, right? It's our mindset, our skills, our habits. And eventually I met some coaches and started working more on the mental and spiritual part of my development. And I realized that my story and my message and what I have to offer the world, it had to be done. And I kid you not, I think the universe is just like, all right, you stop doing the other stuff. Here you go. Start this now. And it's been it's the most rewarding feeling ever since.
Yeah. And I mean, I know you've really went in. You went in all the way, like everything you do. I know you with that. That's like your way to show up in the world. You go all in, which I love. And it's very, it's definitely a very special quality to have. So you've invested into some of your own coaches. You've definitely shown up for yourself and for other people. So what about this process? Because it's shedding off a lot of your own stuff, it's going within and looking deep. What about that process is, I'm sure there's some difficulties, but I don't want to say hard, but more like what about it is uncomfortable?
So I was reading this book called Power versus Force by David Hawkins, and there's this part where he talks about apathy and that we don't have the willingness to look apathy in the face. Only people like Mother Teresa and Gandhi and stuff are able to do that. And I think for me, that journey has been really looking myself
Mhm.
in the face, and sitting with myself, and being with my pain and honoring all of who I am,
Mhm. Mhm.
and then being, courageous enough or vulnerable enough to allow that to show up in the world, because um, that's what we need, more
Mhm.
love. I do believe that we are love, and the more we know ourselves, and the more we know love, the more we can bring that forth into the world.
I love it. No, I love it. It's so true. I mean, everybody is looking for love, sometimes in the wrong places, but we definitely all want that. And then you did a big thing. You literally packed up all your stuff and all your belongings and you went traveling in a van, which a lot
Yeah,
of people are curious about, but not like on a weekend, like everybody does that.
yeah,
You
it's my
literally,
lifestyle.
yes, you literally packed up and decided to be sort of, nomadic and travel and just really go explore yourself in all types of different surroundings. What prompted
Um, well, I've just always I've seen myself traveling. I loved solo traveling.
that? Hmm.
Um, and just I want to experience and immerse myself into different cultures. It's funny because at one point I was trying to start a gym in a co-working space and be like brick and mortar in Phoenix, and
Yeah.
when that didn't work out, it made me really look at what I wanted, and I completely did a 180. And I was like, I'm going remote. I've built
Hmm.
this life, and it's now, how do I continuously do this?
Hmm. And
I
what did,
also, I think I just also like the minimalistic
mhm.
traveling of that.
Yeah. So that was my next question, actually. So this, what are some of your favorite aspects? And I mean, you are super raw. I mean, if you ladies listening, I suggest you highly suggest you follow Dorothy's adventures on social media because she's very raw. You're very open. You talked about a lot of things that weren't great, right? That were tough and not having showers and just sometimes like dealing with this basic aspects of everyday life and like readjusting to that. But what are some of your favorite things about it besides obviously flexibility?
Well, it's that I built this home. That now I'm like I'm remodeling the van. I'm like, oh yeah, I can use power tools. I'm good at this, and um, that part was fun. It's just also uh, just it was the quietness of being in with nature.
Hmm.
I don't know how to explain that other than it's so like you finally clear the noise of the city and the people, and you're just in this energy of like, I belong here. I am loved. This
Hmm.
is, I am in this and it is in me.
Hmm.
I think that's the most beautiful thing. And being able to look up at the stars at night without glasses and seeing it so crystal clear.
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing with all this light pollution?
No, I love it. I love it. Yeah, it's definitely a different type of lifestyle, but it's very addictive, I'm sure, that once you experience that level of freedom and that level of presence, which is,
Yeah.
more important, especially for someone like you who is really devoting yourself to that type of coach and is going really deep and learning about yourself and stepping into some things that make you uncomfortable and stepping into your own fears, right? So, talking about fears, I'm going to touch on a couple of subjects that obviously are very, a lot of times are very difficult to address. A lot of women, that I know in the stories and, from conversations definitely struggle with them. One being the fact that you are a lesbian woman, and I want to go there. I know it
Okay.
wasn't an easy road because you and I had this conversation and accepting yourself and having that acceptance from friends and family. How does this presence and learning about yourself help you to shape up your identity, which in a better way, I'm sure?
I always tell people that like coming out is harder than anything I've ever had to do,
Mhm,
business wise, life wise,
mhm,
because it's it was the day that I actually accepted myself,
mm,
and every day after that is me accepting myself and learning to accept myself, because that process of like overcoming, cultural Asian
mhm,
culture, dishonor, disrespect,
mhm.
abandoning your family, those values. And then you also have my dad's a pastor, the religious aspect of it, of like, sexual repression. You're shamed and punished for these things, because you're a sinner. For a long time, from like 5 years old, I felt very suicidal, unaccepted, unseen, unloved, because I was just like, I'm just the sin. What is this point?
Mhm,
But I'm very grateful for like the friends
mhm.
and that I have, and people who I now consider family, because they showed me that I'm, I'm completely like worthy of love
Yeah.
and enough as I am.
Mhm.
You know,
And
um,
what do you think, like, because there's so many silly discussions about people like choosing the way they are and all that, which is a whole different conversation and a whole different podcast episode. But in a sense of, it was a struggle in overcoming the stereotypes and overcoming all these cultural biases. When do you think you became more like, sure, like this is how I am, and I'm just going to do it? How old were you?
I think maybe for sure 18, 19, like the
Okay.
first time I fell in love.
Mm-hmm.
And I just broken up with that ex, and I was just like, if I can love a woman this much, um, I shouldn't let anything stop me from being open about it and sharing my love.
Yeah.
Uh, and anything, like, if we love something so much, well, do not allow fear to like make you be quiet and shut up. It's not worth it. Like it eats away at you,
Yeah.
because when you love something, you just want to be there with it all the time and to shout it at the top of your lungs.
Yeah. So, would you think, like, if you had to give an advice on that, would you think building that acceptance circle is important, or is it more important to kind of sit and look within yourself first for that self acceptance, like you said?
I think at that point in my life, I was seeking it from other people. That's just what we do, especially
Hmm.
in those younger days, as becoming an adult. But now I would say really sit with yourself, because I think it was, you have to really decide by yourself that this is who I am, and
Hmm.
I'm going to declare it no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. And what was it like? Were you scared with your family when you came out? Were you determined? Were you like, I don't care what they do, I'm just done? Like,
Um,
what point was it? Like
yeah,
that
I was gonna.
final straw?
Uh, I came home one Thanksgiving. I was basically gonna shit my pants, and I came home and I realized nobody was home for Thanksgiving. It was just, I drove home, nobody's there, and I called my mom and I was like, "Hey, like, I need to tell you this, because if I don't tell it to you now, I'm just gonna keep living in silence and
Yeah.
holding in this. I don't want to live a dual life.
Hmm.
It's There's no joy in that for me."
Yeah. Yeah. And now, where is it now with your family? Is everybody on board? Is everybody not on board? Some,
No.
they're not on board.
My parents are still very, very much homophobic,
Hmm.
and uh, like this recent breakup that I had, like they're like, "Oh my god, will she go like date guys now?" And I'm like, "No, I think I've been out for over 10 years. What are you talking about?"
The hope, that hope
Yeah, the
still
hope is
remains.
still strong.
I mean, you have to
Um,
give them credit to have that strong of hope. That
yeah,
that is also a skill. Yeah.
yeah. for
Yes.
sure.
But
And
you
I
definitely
mean,
have, yeah, go ahead.
I will respect their opinions,
Hmm.
whatever, but I will not tolerate um, like any comments or anything that comes through. Like I've learned to set those boundaries
Yeah.
around and have those really hard conversations because it's not just for me, but like if they're gonna be out in public talking about other people, I'm not cool with that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, that's my other question to you. So, do you have friends that maybe come out to you now asking for advice? What's the best way to deal with it? How do you deal with, families or friends or people that are not accepting?
Um. mm, No, I haven't really had to deal or not. Like that hasn't really come up in conversation. I think a lot of my friends, I just honestly wherever they are, and I
Yeah.
will meet them there,
Yeah.
whether they're ready or not. Like you all out, let's go all out. If you're not ready to tell your parents, well, okay, we'll sit with you and we'll be gay together in this
Yeah.
moment. You know?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. And we just be love and support. And, I had a
yeah,
conversation recently and somebody said to me this line that I really, really like. They said, before you can help anybody with your fears, you have to nurture your own. And I really truly believe that. That's why I love when you say in that, you just meet them where you are and you just love on them exactly in the place where they are. And when they're ready, they're going to, make their own moves. And, but anything in life, any type of relationships obviously are not easy. And, speaking on relationships, you have gone through some real tough times. I mean, I don't know, tough or not, but definitely some, you've had some experiences.
yeah.
Uh, and, the last one was prominent because you were together for a while and, that
I was
obviously
engaged.
you were
Yeah,
engaged, yes, and leaving going on a trip and doing the van life together and making all that life, creating that lifestyle together, really.
yeah.
How did you cope with ending? How did you feel about this? I mean, did you allow yourself to process? Did you just cut it out of your life?
Um, I've been really thinking about this actually. I made the promise to myself the last time like I ended a relationship or just even got into a relationship that if it ends that I would be kind and gentle to myself.
Hmm.
Because I have had patterns in the past where it was like a lot of drinking or
Hmm.
partying, drugs, going out, blowing money to keep up with people, and I just straight up abandoning myself, not eating, letting the
Yeah.
depression and that become my identity.
Hmm.
But this time, like we said at the beginning, like I looked my pain in the face. And it was, I think, the first time that I've ever shown myself that kind of like love and
Hmm.
patience
Hmm.
without judgment. I was like, okay, today I have to cry all day. Let it be all out. Like, let myself cry.
Yeah.
If I can't sleep, okay, well, I'm awake and then I'm going to start journaling and whatever comes from that. I think some of my best breakthroughs in these past several months have come from these like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. I can't sleep. And oh, wow, I just realized I have. I've been dealing with sexual repression, and um,
Yeah.
oh, these are I'm dealing with abandonment issues, but I
Yeah.
had to ask myself those questions because I was like, I need to go to sleep. What is the real question here?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. What do you think? Why? Why do you think it's different this time? That you
Um,
went into that self-love versus, like you said, just avoiding it.
Consciousness. I
Mm.
am a lot more aware of who I am and mindful of how I want to, or intentional about how I want to live my life. Um, like, like I know my vision is still the same, and just because this very important relationship in my life has ended, Like I'm still going to live it. I
Hmm.
still want to be fully expressed in my creativity, in my love, in my truth, and I had to show up for myself.
Hmm. I love it. Yeah. So for all the ladies who are listening, she said something that I'm actually going to bring her back to. She said consciousness, right? And at the beginning of this interview, you mentioned that the mindset, right? The mindset is so much more important. And I think in this very busy world where we get thrown at all the times, it's like go, 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 and busy becomes a badge of honor, and we are always bombarded with things. I think what you said, and that slowing down and mindset and consciousness and the level of awareness are becoming much more important because we living in the world now where we're sort of starting to be trained to just shove everything inside and then you process later because right now you don't have the time to process and then later never happens and you just add like layers and layers and layers of the micro traumas which essentially start holding you back from really seeing who you are. So how did you, which I'm sure a lot of this ladies who are listening right now thinking, well, good for you, Dorothy, that you have that consciousness and awareness. But how would you say you developed that? How did you get to that level where now you can go into the grace and the kindness?
How did I get here? Wow. Um, Lots of meditation, uh, and and a willingness to be honest with myself.
Mm.
Because I think I knowing where your priorities are too, like for me, it's putting peace above all,
Mm.
peace above all, and whatever I have to do to get to that place of peace.
Hmm.
What does peace look like for me right now, today? I will do that. I will
Okay.
go do that.
Okay.
Um,
I love it. So staying really present in today and in this moment. Then
yeah.
what do you do in terms of, everybody talks about goals and how important goals are and big visions and having that vision for your life. So how do you balance between staying in that presence, which is today, but also having that, like you mentioned earlier, I have the vision of my life. And regardless whether, the relationships are there or people are there, I'm going to live it out. I'm going to keep living that vision. So, how do you balance between keeping that big picture on track, but also being aware enough to know that you have to deal with what's in front of you?
I wrote this in a post the other day, but I think it's very different to say that you have faith,
Hmm.
and then to actually practice faith. And to me, I trust that whatever comes up for me that day
Hmm.
is in benefit to my vision and my goals. And I will show up for that because I don't have control over anything else.
Hmm.
I don't have control over what's going to happen next. I don't have control over changing my past. I only have what I'm doing now in this moment. And if I love myself and I don't judge myself, I can move through what I need to in order to make the vision happen.
Hmm. No, I love it. I love it. That faith. Yeah. No, that's awesome.
Practicing faith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Not saying it. Like a lot of, we hear a lot of the words, the buzzwords, but then the practice is just not there. And I love the fact that yes, you're actually walking the talk. So when you work with your clients, and getting them through some tough situations, I'm sure, and teaching them how to learn to love themselves and, show up with love in the world, what are some things that you find people struggle with the most?
Self forgiveness.
Hmm.
Yeah. That's number one thing.
And
It's forgiving.
why do you think that is?
Well, we hold on to these judgments and these conditionings and these patterns of what is right in the
Hmm.
world. We create this duality of this version is the right way and this version is the wrong way. And I always invite them to move beyond that and see that there is no duality. It's actually all happening at the same time.
Hmm.
And if you can learn to embrace all the feelings that you are having. You get to choose. You get to create what you want to do from there.
Mm, I love that so much. Ladies, I want you to pay attention. I want you to save this part if you're watching us, or save it if you're listening to it. But I want you to go back to what you just said, because it's really, really incredible information about the fact that if you just embrace all the feelings that you have, then you get to choose and create exactly how you want to position it all in your life. I love that so much.
Yeah.
So if you were working with someone, and I'm sure, I mean, women, I think especially, are really hard on themselves, right? We put ourselves on the pedestal of attaining this perfection a lot of times, and, striving for some created version of success or the perfect role that we have to play. So if you were working with someone, and I'm sure this ladies who are listening, like I said, will appreciate that, on working on just barely like taking TP toe in and taking baby steps into self-forgiveness, what are a couple of points you can give them to work on?
Well, if we want to start with mindfulness and awareness of what, because your language is so important. The language that you use is very important.
So I know everything you said is super, super valuable, but for women who are listening, and if they're just sort of dabbling and tippy toeing into that self-forgiveness, what are a couple of points that you can give them to work on?
become aware of the language that you are using, because your language creates your world, right? Your thoughts create your world, and what are thoughts is they turn into language so that we can communicate.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you take the time to listen to what you are saying to yourself and how you're identifying yourself throughout the day, that's a great place to start and to really dive in of where do I need to show myself love, like, you know. And one of the practices that my coach has given to me is, I forgive myself for judging myself, that I am, insert what you've been saying about yourself, or I am that, I am whatever you've judged yourself for. And creating a new truth from that place, because once you open up the door with self-forgiveness, forgiving yourself, it actually opens up some neural pathways so that you can create a new truth for yourself.
I love that. No, it's so, so good and very true. And, it's interesting about language that you brought it up, because I just talked to a client of mine a couple of days ago who has a tendency, sort of as a joke, even like on social media, she'll bring herself down. Like her first go-to when she's uncomfortable is literally like belittling herself, like in a very funny way. But to me, it's language, and what I was explaining to her, I said, your subconscious doesn't have a difference. It doesn't differentiate that this is supposed to be a joke and this other time it's not a joke. So yes, I 100% agree. And I love that you brought it up. So ladies, definitely pay attention to how you use language about yourself and how you show up, whether it's funny or not. Any type of self-deprecation, your subconscious is going to process it exactly the same as if it was for real, because it can't differentiate. So you just have to be very careful with that language. I absolutely love that. So what is peace for you? Since you brought up peace earlier and you said, I'll put my peace above else. What does peace look for Dorothy?
Peace for me is living out my love and my truth. Just being myself fully in any moment, and basically being able to do what I want, when I want, where I want. That is peace to me. And peace to me also equals freedom.
Love it. Absolutely. Yes. I'm so much on the same page with that. So ladies, if you're listening, yes, that's true peace, having that freedom, whatever it looks like for you,
Yeah.
is what you want to build out in your life. So, Dorothy, I mean, you obviously building your life right now very intentionally, right? With, having that lifestyle, being able to be flexible, being able to not be attached to brick and mortar, which are all very intentional decisions. Even in the hard times, you still continue to do that, which I love. So, if there is a woman out there, if there is a boss babe out there who is listening right now and she's maybe scared, right? She's sitting on that idea that I want to have that freedom. I want to have that flexibility, but she is still attached to brick and mortar, whether it's a house or, workplace or something. And she really wants to go and try it out. What would be one advice you would give her?
Well, you posed this question prior and I thought I had to answer, but now it's different.
Good.
I think at this place, at this time, I would say feel into it. Feel into it and actually connect with the life that you want to live, that you want to live. How do I choose me in this moment? How do I choose this life right now, today? And really feel into it, because our emotions are the real driving force. And if you can feel into that future, you can live it right now. You don't have to wait.
Yeah. Yeah. I literally just got goosebumps with you saying that. I love it so much. And honestly, like I said, ladies, I hope you're listening. I know she's so honest about that. That's what I love, Dorothy. And that's why she's on this podcast with me right now. But it's true. It's so true. And I think especially when the fact that you emphasize that you want to live, because sometimes our world gets so loud, we'll literally get lost in it and we forget what we feel and what we want it to look like. So yes, it's so important to go back and really rely on self-listening skills and learning about yourself and feeling into what you want to create. So what's next for you? Where are you going next?
Everywhere.
For everybody listening.
Everywhere. Going to Spain. If Asia is not consumed by coronavirus, I will be there too. Gonna get back in my van and start traveling again.
I love it. I love it. And so they'll be able to connect with you on social media? Is that the best place? Yes.
Yeah, social media right now. Yeah.
Awesome. Yes. So you can all follow her adventures and live for her vicariously. But I do love Dorothy actually shares a lot of, internal revelations, a lot of her self-discoveries. So it's a very good place to see her process of self-development and learning. So you will get a lot of value out of that. We'll post that in the show notes. And Dorothy, I really appreciate you. Like I said, it's been such an amazing way to kind of come in full circle from seeing you speak to now seeing you, build that life with full intention of what you want it to look like.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure and an honor to sit in conversation with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to iStartFirst podcast. If you loved it as much as I did, feel free to tag us on Instagram at iStartFirst_. Share it with your besties, and if you feel so compelled, give us that 5-star review on iTunes. Till next time, and like always, kick ass and sparkle up.